On December 31st, the world will celebrate an event that begins in one century and ends in the next. Millennium Live, only on PAX TV.
The year 2000 computer problem is, without question, the most complex, most expensive problem mankind has ever faced.
I believe we will have the declaration of a national emergency. I think we'll have martial law by this time next year. I don't think there will be New Year's Eve celebrations like we have seen them in the past, because I think there will be troops in the streets.
There are some Y2K analysts out there that are saying we need to be preparing for the doomsday scenario, and they may be right.
My biggest concern is the potential there is for panic, because people that are panicked will generally make the wrong decisions.
Can your family survive if you're on your own?
Food, water, and shelter. If you cover those, everything else is secondary, but those are the primary ones you've got to address.
I believe Y2K could throw the American medical system into gridlock.
The Bible has a verse in it that's so important that it occurs twice. The book of Proverbs 27:3 and 27:12 essentially says that the prudent man sees trouble coming and takes action. The foolish man keeps going and suffers for it. The Bible calls us to diligence.
Some experts believe that panic could cause more problems than the problem itself. But the person who is prepared, of course, has no need to panic. Food, water, shelter, and for many people, medical supplies. Will you be ready? Or will you be sorry you didn't act in time?
Take two and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Keep going, let's go! There it goes!
You may have noticed more of those pesky mosquitoes biting recently, and whether they could be carrying West Nile virus is a big health concern now. 36 states are reporting infections in people, birds, and mosquitoes.
West Nile virus is the greatest health threat to the United States in terms of mosquito-transmitted viruses.
The CDC says there have been 128 cases of West Nile disease in people this year, and 4 have died. Cases with severe disease are also on the rise.
1 in 5 individuals will get sick. They'll develop fever, sometimes fever and a rash, and a headache.
Protecting yourself from mosquito bites is critical. The CDC recommends using insect repellent containing one of these ingredients.
This is the Amoy Gardens living complex in Hong Kong, metropole of 8 million people. Here, the illness affected most of the 19,000 inhabitants. In Block E, 250 inhabitants grew ill from SARS. It is distressing that an epidemic can break out in an apartment block. In light of the epidemic, nothing in this city of millions is normal anymore. Offices are closed and traffic has reduced by half. The inhabitants rarely leave their houses. Safety masks cover people's faces. Children are especially frightened by this unfamiliar situation. The Metropole Hotel in Kowloon. From here, it spread to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong further into Singapore and Canada. The virus was unknowingly spread among the hotel guests and visitors. How the virus was transmitted remains unknown. The disease, which was unknown at the time, could easily have spread amongst the nursing personnel. More than 100 people were infected with it. Protective masks of all types are offered for sale on street corners. Hong Kong is preparing for the worst. Hospitals have dealt with more than 3,000 patients with SARS, a press release said yesterday. The feared catastrophe has only just begun.
The death toll from a new strain of bird flu in China has risen to 6. Authorities in Shanghai slaughtered birds at a poultry market in the city after the H7N9 virus was detected from samples of pigeons. 14 people in total have been reported as having been infected by the strain, all in eastern China. Concern that the bird flu could spread sparked alarm in the region, with Japan advising passengers entering the country to seek medical advice.
At the Pasadena Farmers Market this morning, lettuce lovers can shop easy, knowing this locally grown romaine is safe. The concern? Romaine grown in Yuma, Arizona, and shipped across the country. The CDC is warning about an E. coli outbreak from lettuce grown there, telling grocery stores, restaurants, and consumers to toss it all out if they can't be sure where it came from. The outbreak is now afflicting 53 patients in 16 states. So far, no one has died, but the symptoms are debilitating, with vomiting, diarrhea, and in severe cases, kidney failure.
Fear is running high as the death toll rises in Mexico's capital city. The worried line up for testing, their faces covered with masks. The government in this city of 20 million closed all public places, including schools, in a desperate attempt to stop the spread of this strain of flu never seen before.
Our concern has grown since yesterday.
With more than 1,000 people sick in Mexico and 8 recent cases in the U.S. concentrated in 2 border states, 2 near San Antonio, Texas, and 6 near San Diego, California, U.S. health officials are watching this outbreak closely. Normal swine flu transmission is through contact with pigs. U.S. researchers want to know how the American patients who have all recovered from the disease got it when none is believed to have had any contact with pigs.
This begins to look like a new influenza virus strain that could do a lot of mischief around the world.
Now, officials are also concerned tonight because they have discovered this new strain that has killed so many in Mexico is in fact the same strain to sicken people here in the U.S.
What are the symptoms of swine flu?
Well, similar to the regular flu, so fever, aches and pain, cough, headache, and sometimes you can get nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. What's very important, people tend to confuse those symptoms with the symptoms of the common cold, which are much milder and generally from the neck up.
3 years may be all the time we have left on Earth, as December 21st, 2012 marks the end of the world, as predicted by many ancient cultures, prophecies, and scriptures.
In 2012, we expect the biggest sun eruptions of human history.
Whether it triggers earthquakes and volcanoes, it could well. My great fear is the domino effect, where one thing leads to another, and we plunge into chaos.
people from all walks of life speculate that in 2012 there will be a shift, kind of a new age, a new way of thinking. Some think it's the end of the world.
Our movie in 2012 is all about the preparation for the end of the world.
This is going to be a big and powerful storm. Millions of people are going to be affected. All across the eastern seaboard, I think everybody is taking the appropriate preparations.
It's a virus that is so old, it's practically new again to a younger generation of doctors who've never seen the symptoms. Our report tonight from NBC's Hallie Jackson.
The measles outbreak at Disneyland has proven it's a small world after all. Health officials now say 26 cases in 4 states have been linked to visits to the park in mid-December. Here in the U.S., measles infections have skyrocketed. More than 600 cases were reported last year, the highest number since 2000. The virus is highly contagious and can take up to 12 days to show up. Symptoms include cough, fever, and a rash.
What started at the Orange County theme parks has spread to Colorado, Washington, Utah, and now Mexico. And that can make it easier to transmit the highly infectious airborne disease.
Measles is so contagious you can catch it inside an empty room because the virus can survive up to 2 hours on surfaces or in the air.
Doctors say this outbreak could be the worst in decades.
A new chapter this morning in the battle against Ebola. You're looking live at the apartment of the first American infected with this deadly disease here at home.
Please be advised that a healthcare worker who lives in your area has tested positive for the Ebola virus.
The nurse had been caring for Thomas Eric Duncan before he died from the virus on Wednesday. She's now in isolation at that same Texas hospital after driving herself to the emergency room to report a low-grade fever on Friday. And the fear of possible contagion spreading throughout the country. In Los Angeles, a United flight was quarantined on the runway after a passenger traveling from Africa complained of flu-like symptoms.
Unfortunately, it is possible in the coming days that we will see additional cases of Ebola.
Right now, there are 48 people still under close watch who were exposed to Duncan before he was isolated. Her dog also being monitored as officials try to determine the transmission threat posed by animals.
And back here at home, and a major health alert tonight, the Zika virus being spread by mosquitoes right here in the U.S. At least 4 people infected after being bitten near downtown Miami. Today, health officials going door to door to test residents.
4 people with Zika, all bitten by mosquitoes in this 1 square mile of Miami right next to downtown. The symptoms are mild in most, but can cause severe birth defects. In Miami, extra patrols out spraying, screening residents, and passing out critical supplies in the trouble zone. Officials in Miami confident they can keep Zika contained.
This Orthodox Jewish section of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, is ground zero, where some 250 measles cases have been confirmed within the last 9 months. It's been reported that one man with measles traveled from Brooklyn to Michigan, which has since recorded 41 cases statewide. In fact, nationwide, there have been 78 new cases in the last week alone.
So this virus is incredibly infectious. That's one of the reasons why it's so dangerous. It's very easy to catch. If you are not vaccinated and you are in an area where patients who have had the measles have been in the last 2 hours, it's airborne and you can catch it. And the chances of catching it are very high.
But since 2001, the percentage of young children without any vaccination at all has quadrupled nationwide. And Elaine, despite that mandatory order here in New York, the city admits it can't physically force people to get a shot.
Dentro pulsa do macana, o penento que tu nadará, nadará. Acho só dentro que pene. Dikrim čas vaj čođimo Nadara Que mislim tu sa nadara Nadara Onde il pennel nadarà ci darà che o Jesus trai la demande ci darà che o Jesus trai la demande ci darà so godiave la So go down,